Hej og velkommen til. Hello and welcome. Today I will explain the history of Asia from an American um, colonial perspective, more like empire perspective, because by the time the Americans came to power in the world, sort of like Game of Thrones, just in the real world, by the time they ascended to the throne, colonialism in its original form and sense was gone. Let's say gone. It did not exist anymore. There had been a um, let's say anti-colonial wave after especially World War II. Colonialism was no longer in its traditional original form, mind you, was no longer favorable. There was not a favorable view towards colonialism in its original sense. In its original sense, colonialism really had been going on for quite some time, at least since the 1500s when the conquistadores from Spain, etc. Portugal went to South America. More recently, the last leg of colonialism happened when there was the scramble for Africa in the 1800s, when all the European colonial powers just took over all of Africa and carved it up the sort of kind of the way it looks today. Maybe you've seen a map of Africa and you wondered how are these straight lines happening? Same like some states in the United States. In geography and quote politics, we talk about two things. There are natural borders and artificial borders. Natural borders follow lakes, waters, mountain ranges, and artificial borders are like man-made constructs. The first ones are man-made constructs as well, but they seem to be following some sort of geographical natural logic. If you catch my drift, if you get my point, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, and so that is traditional colonialism, very European, very Eurocentric, trying to export the European state system everywhere around the globe, which is a product of the 1648 Peace of Westphalia. There had been a lot of wars in Europe, the Hundred Years' War, all these wars, the 30 Years' War, and Europe said, "Come on, guys, can we like stop fighting each other? It's getting kind of out of hand. Nobody's benefiting. We're just moving borders around a few square meters, kilometers here and there, and we're spending all our time doing this stuff." So the heads of states came together and said, "These are the borders, and they will not be moved." And people were like, "Okay, cool." And then they started exporting that system around the world. And the thing is, we have nation states, so a lot of times the borders of the state coincide with the nation. And in other places, they may or may not have that to the same extent. Like you can have a lot of ethnicities living within the same borders. So the nation state is like France, Germany, Italy. But then you go even deeper and you realize all of this is a bunch of BS as well. You can find books on this. I recommend you go check it out for yourself, do your own research, right? But the point is something like the reunification of Italy and the reunification of Germany. they were branded as reunifications, even though prior to that they had never been unified. So that's all a matter of branding. You go to places like Italy, the South has nothing in common with the North. You go to places like Germany, West and East Germany, completely different places. You go to places like France, the south of France, completely different from the north. So the north has managed, in the case of Italy and France, to colonize even, let's say, the south. And in the case of Germany, the western part has managed to colonize the eastern part. And this is the perspective that you need to have in order to really understand what's going on. That even the things you look at today and say, oh, France, right? That's like a thing. It didn't used to be like that. There's something called state building and state crafting when you start imposing the same language, the same laws, the same curriculum, and you start erasing cultures and differences between people that used to be completely different. In the beginning of the 1900s, a French author won the Nobel Prize in Literature, and it was written in a language that was from the south of France, which was not French. They spoke a completely different language altogether, right? You know today about dialects and different regional dialects. This is kind of how this stuff works out and plays out. So these stage people, let's call them, they really like standardization, and they really don't like what they call perversion and perverted things. And I don't think anyone likes perverted things, but the problem is that their definition of what is perverted. Well, it's wrong. Like, they don't like things that they can't control. They don't like things that move without them knowing why it moves. They don't like things moving around. They like control and order, and nobody moves unless they're told to. That's why we have roads, and these roads have names, X route, and then this road has house numbers, road numbers, road X1, road X2, road X3, road Y1, road Y2, road Y3. Then inside every house, there are people that have an address there. And those people have names, government names, a first name and a last name. Road X1, person 1, 2, 3, name 1, name 2, name 3, last name 1, last name 1, last name 1. And then, so it's easy for them to understand and have in their systems, in the computers. Then all these people are given a number, like a social security number, like a range of just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then they are put into a system. And then everybody's kept track of everything. Medical records, everything they do, wherever they go, wherever they move, is become even more now with satellite technology, imagery, and GPS, geopositioning systems. And everyone is kept track of. All their records on the mobile phones, on the internet, everything they search, everything they see, everything they watch, everything they eat, it's all fed back into the machine and the system to make sure that nobody will do anything to disrupt the system. As soon as they recognize that there is a disturbance anywhere, they completely attack immediately to get it quelled. Like a so-called revolution starts spurring, or people start thinking, what is going on? Like, what's happening? Then they immediately attack. And this is the matrix, and this is the system. And it's very real, and it's been built since at least the 1800s in Europe, with state building and state crafting. Back in the day, the north of France, Paris and all that, they used to go to the south, and the police and the army and stuff, they would fight in these narrow streets of southern France, and have all these demonstrations, and they would throw rocks at the police, and they didn't want to be part of it. The south of Italy, right? Like, they had all the mafia stuff. They had their own government. They didn't want the government from the north that didn't care about the south to start providing healthcare and education, and they would just brainwash them with their wrong education and curriculum, and the healthcare would be completely unequally distributed. So what they did was they had their own government that is basically just an organization that has the monopoly on violence, and then they take care of things. So they have money, they take care of everything, right? The Don, the families, right? That's how it works. And then they provide, anyone in the community says, hey, I have a sick mother, she needs help. Okay, here's money for that. Oh, my kid needs to go here, get a job, do something. Okay, we'll marry them, we'll give them a job. And then the government obviously says, oh, the mafia is wrong, they're evil criminals. And the mafia and all those say the government is wrong, they're evil criminals. And it goes to the debate of like, who's really the terrorist, the American government or the poor Muslims that are being slaughtered, as we speak. And these are questions you can ponder late at night. The answer is obviously not obvious to everyone all the time, right? You go to pollution, you go to crime. Like, who's the criminal? The guy with the knife who stabs someone in the street, or the guy in a suit in a Wall Street like six-story building who just turned the entire economy of a whole country with 40 million into like rubble just like that by clicking a button? Who's really doing bad stuff? Like the guy who throws a McDonald's back in nature, God forbid, by the way, uh, or the industrialist who just pollute an entire lake or ocean, just pouring toxic waste from a factory into the oceans like every day, like that, just tons and tons of sewage, right? And these are things that once you see them, they're hard to unsee. Put it like that. So welcome to the club, as they say. So that is old colonialism. And even in Asia, there was colonialism, like India by the British and Indochina by the French. Even the Middle East was completely cut up between the Brits and the French. The Russians tried to warn us. We didn't heed the warning. There's the Sykes-Picot Agreement. I made a whole video series on that too. Go check it out on TikTok if you haven't already. There's lots of content everywhere. I got a book. I got so much stuff. But this is the history that is finally coming forth right now because the world is in the state that it is in. The American empire has crumbled. It is gone. We now live in a different world altogether than we have for the past since 1945, 1950 until 2000, 2010, 2020. It's a new world, it's a new game. All the old rules don't apply. The so-called liberal institutions, all of it, NATO and the United Nations, it no longer works. Even the European Union, to a certain degree, has to be reworked, revamped, etc. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to put it. The old system is dead, and love and praise and all that. Grandpa is dead, etc. Right? Did we like him? Yeah, we did. He was family, but he was also kind of a dick at times, right? Pretty racist at family gatherings, right? And my sister's new boyfriend, who just so happened to be black, like he didn't like him, etc. So these are things that we all go through, and it's completely normal as a human family. And yeah, so if you go to Asia, because I've done a lot of stuff on South America, telling you about all the overthrows of democratically elected people, Allende in Chile with Pinochet coming to power, all the Zapatistas with the Ronald Reagan in the 80s up in Middle America, and all that stuff. And the funding of the crack pandemic in the 80s in California to keep the black people down so they wouldn't make a civil war in the US with the Black Panthers that the CIA orchestrated, and all the cocaine that they were part of, and funneling money to the Iranians and the Cuban crisis, and all that. So this is Asia. And the thing is, we got these countries: the Philippines, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia, Vietnam, and then Korea, let's say, and Japan, right? The countries that I'm going to be talking about right now. So, what the Americans did was that they sat down in small rooms and said, how can we take over the world? How can we control the whole world? And they said, the main thing against us right now is communism, right? From Russia and from China. And they were afraid that there would be this sort of, like, let's say, domino effect where one country would start becoming communist, then the rest, and the rest, and the rest, and all would follow until the whole world was communist, and we all live in peace and joy and prosperity, and we sing, we dance, and we play the guitar, God forbid that we actually have a good time and enjoy ourselves instead of working ourselves to death on a daily basis as wage slaves, etc. Back in the 50s, 60s now. It obviously culminated in the 70s and all that. You might have seen the counter revolutions and all that, right? So, yeah. And then they tried to do like a containment policy. So they wanted to contain the communism so it couldn't spread because they thought it could only spread from country to country geographically, right? Now it's become so much easier with the internet and our blooming psychic powers and our telepathy, right? And yeah, they have machines that are trying to bombard us with frequencies and chemtrails that are trying to dumb us down through poisoning the air that we breathe and putting shit in our water like fluoride, right? To calcify our pineal gland so we don't have psychic powers and intuition and telepathy, telekinesis and psychokinesis. And that will all end, right? I declare hereby that this will no longer stand and this has ended. And every man on earth is free. We can come out from our caves now and start working together in creating this new world. And so yeah, it's all chill and relaxed and fine and good, and there's really no big deal, like everything has been taken care of. Just lean back and relax and receive this huge transmission of Kundalini energy and perfect, awesome energy. And yeah, what happens next will completely blow your mind. Like the Americans have created like a mafia system in the world, and I'm talking in the past now, not now, but in the past, what they did, and what they did was say like we are the Don and we run this city. So if you think of the whole world as just a city and different countries just as different like stores and different families to making money in the same city, like it could be Napoli in Italy or something, right? Just for reference. And so all these store owners, they're selling stuff like, oh, I'm selling shoes, I'm selling bread, I'm selling meat, I'm selling this, I'm selling that. And the Americans come in, they say, we own this thing and you need to pay us all protection money. And everyone pays, all right, we're going to do whatever you say, here's the money, here's the money. And then the Americans say, we'll protect you, right, in return for this money. And so you ask, who are you protecting us against? Oh, you don't need to worry about that. They tell you it's someone else. In reality, it's themselves. It's like, do you remember when there was this huge case, where it turned out that the antivirus companies, the companies that were living off selling antivirus software, they were um, they were the ones that created the virus, so that they had something to live from, right? And yeah, that's a huge problem. Prison industry, dentistry. Sorry, hate to break it to you, but stuff like this, it gets a little scary and weird and crazy when you start thinking about it. The economic incentives, and then thinking how people are obsessed with money and how they will literally kill their own family members for money, and how they pray to money like a god. And then you look at how certain people will make money in certain industries, and you wonder, is this healthy? Is this sane? Right? And the answer is a resounding no. It's not. Um, so the Americans, then some people have said, we're not going to stand for this. Like, we will not pay you protection money at all. Like, you can come, you can kill me, ravage my store, burn it down, right? Like, kill me, kill my wife, do terrible things to my family, etc. People I love, but I will not be bullied, right? And so the Americans have said, these guys are absolute maniacs and crazy people. We need to kill them immediately. And I'm talking about Venezuela. I'm talking about Cuba to a certain extent. I'm talking about Iran, Syria, and North Korea, right? These rogue pariah states, the axis of evil that George Bush talked about, because all of us who are paying, our protection money, if we look at them and they're not paying protection money, they're just fucking having the time of their life and they're not part of this thing, then we will go, why can they do it and we can't? Then the Americans say, oh, don't worry, trust me, like they can't either. And then they go and like try to beat them in the head with a stick, right? All these plans for invading Iran, etc., right? So that is how it works. So what we should do is, instead of trying to get the Don to beat up the people that go against the Don, we should join the people that go against the Don in going against the Don, so we can be free and not be, let's say, slaves and repressed and oppressed, etc., by an evil fascist dictator regime, whether it's on state scale or city scale or whatever scale, so have you, right? Even at an individual scale, for yourselves, right? You should look at yourself as an individual that has like a board meeting, boardroom, board member, and all the different parts of you should be present at the board meeting. And what I find is that most people today, they live in a state of martial law. They have at some point when they were 5 or 6, they have declared martial law. It's a crisis, right? All the normal things don't matter anymore. The constitution doesn't matter. You know, all the creatives need to leave the room. You like to play guitar? Go. You like to draw and paint? Go. You like to sing and dance? You need to leave. I only need people here who are like, I need the general, the military, the crazy guy who hates everyone and thinks we should go to war with everyone. These are the people. And we're the only people allowed in the room to make decisions because it's a crisis. There's martial law. None of the regular laws apply. And what you need is to realize there's no martial law. You need to calm down your nervous system. So do it with me right now. Just breathe. That's it. Good. And out. That's it. All the way out. Let go. And just realize, um, there is no crisis. It's all a lie because you wanted to believe it's true. You have manifested it. You have started seeing proof that it's true. And once you change your belief at the core, depth of it, your whole matrix and three-dimensional projection will start changing. You will start seeing proof that not only that it is not real, but that it never was real to begin with. And then you can let the creatives in, the artists, the dancers, the musicians, the actors, and you can have a party and a blast. Yeah, good stuff. I know. Real good stuff. Best stuff in the whole universe. I've told you hands down, I'm Jesus Christ reborn. I'm the ghost of Buddha and Jesus reborn. I'm the biggest legend the universe has ever known. There's nobody smarter than me on planet Earth. Nobody. Best philosopher, smartest guy, most intelligent person, and talented and successful on planet Earth who has ever existed, ever to live throughout all ages and all times. And I'll happily say it again. Every time you forget, I'll remind you. So, going back to Asia, with this containment policy to try and stop the spread of communism, that the Red Scare of the 70s and what they saw as evil, and this guy, minister who was famous for like thinking everybody was a commie, etc., right? It begins with an M, but you can check it out. I won't say any more than that. There's Jim Crow, obviously, with the racism and the civil rights movement, right? And people have always had to fight for their rights. Like people think we got a constitution in Denmark just because the king was feeling generous. No, we had to threaten, like either we're going to kill you or you're going to give us rights. People think that the blacks, let's say African Americans, the black people of the United States, they got their rights, civil rights, because the white people, the white majority, racist, just one day woke up and they were like, you know what, this is not ethical. Let's give them rights. No, they had to literally threaten, like we're going to start a civil war and fight till the last of us who we get these rights. So if you think that anyone is going to come and give you stuff, if you don't have what it takes to become militant and violent, you're wrong. You will have to fight for it, and you will have to put your life on the line to get it. Otherwise, forget it. Put your life on the line to get it or forget it. Claim it or forfeit it. That's how it works in the real world. And the people that tell you differently and have told you differently, they're lying. So you look at Asia and you look at the Philippines first. They were like used as an American colony and stuff for the longest time. Duterte recently came to power back and he cleared the whole thing up and stopped the whole drug thing. And so he was completely ravaged in media. Oh, this guy's so crazy saying all these things. He was like, fuck Obama, fuck America, and all that. Um, and yeah, and some Spanish colonization, then American later, because their strategic position close to the South China Sea. That they're fighting about, because that's where China can get their fleet into the Pacific and then potentially even, let's say, launch an attack on the United States, a full-scale invasion or an invasion on the west coast of the US. So they're trying to close China in so they don't have access to the Pacific. They don't have water access, and they can't have a fleet. China is building these uh, islands out there, and there's Taiwan. It's a big one, obviously, huge one, right? Um, and